Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Let's get started. Let's dive deep. Let's dive deep.
You're walking through life on a perfectly predictable trajectory, and then, out of nowhere, two separate worlds violently collide. The lyrics of Night and Day capture this shockwave. The narrator describes an encounter with a stranger as burning, hitting with the impact of galaxies colliding in the dark. It is a sudden, massive intimacy that feels as if it occupies the entire sky. What makes the encounter truly disorienting is the familiarity. The text invokes the concept of déjà vu to articulate a haunting sensation. These two people barely know each other, yet they behave like two souls reborn, carrying a history they can't quite name. This arrival breaks the narrator's existing reality. Their usual defenses are gone, leaving them open to an immediate psychological backlash as they try to process the scale of the change. Moving too fast, too deep, creates a vacuum. When the initial intensity of the arrival peaks, it leaves behind an empty space that is quickly filled by existential dread. The narrator begins to question the nature of the experience. They must determine if this heat is the warmth of love or a temporary flame, leaving them in the dark once it burns out. After such a loud collision, the following silence feels sharper. The lyrics compare this absence to a blade, a quiet at cuts because it stands in such severe contrast to the fire that started it. This is the central crisis. The narrator is navigating the expanse between the certainty of the connection they felt and the fear that it was never there to begin with. There is a common expectation that love arrives as a peaceful, comforting force. Yet the narrator is experiencing extreme intimacy and feeling something closer to panic. The text highlights a contradiction. If this connection is meant to be, why does the internal response feel like a war? This intimacy-vulnerability loop is a trap. Extreme intimacy leads directly to heightened vulnerability, triggering defensive withdrawal. Any perceived distance short-circuits this cycle, hitting a flight or fight override. The narrator is paralyzed, caught in a survival response. The conflict isn't between two people. The narrator is fighting their own survival instincts, which have been activated by a level of emotional exposure they weren't prepared to handle. Physical and emotional separation creates a dizzying loss of control. The narrator plummets away from a shared reality and into a foggy void. This freefall forces a question. Is this healing or escaping? The narrator is grappling with cognitive dissonance, the discomfort of holding two conflicting modes simultaneously. On one hand, the lyrics describe an undeniable alignment. They operate on the same frequency. The dynamic feels like home. On the other hand, the silence suggests a phantom reality. The narrator fears they are chasing a ghost, unable to let go of a complete illusion. The split heart mentioned in the text creates a perfect balance. The reasons to believe in a destined alignment are weighed exactly against the reasons to fear a destructive illusion. The scale remains frozen. Logic cannot break this tie. You cannot think your way out of a perfectly symmetrical conflict, keeping the narrator entirely paralyzed. Then the lyrics pivot. The frantic questioning stops. The interrogation is replaced by a calmer, broader perspective. The crucial phrase is not broken, just unfinished. This line reframes the pain. Instead of seeing the silence as the end of the story, the narrator sees it as a temporary pause. The narrator realizes that searching for proof is futile. The only way forward is the difficult act of surrendering to the unknown. The text offers a final theory on how these worlds bond. True connections don't rely on human effort, but on an invisible gravity. This gravity exerts a constant pull. It moves two people back toward each other, eventually making the distance or the silence between them irrelevant. This leads the narrator to a state of acceptance. They choose to exist within the cycle of night and day, without demanding an immediate answer. Some connections are not meant to be solved. They are meant to be lived through, finding peace in the quiet space between two colliding worlds.